bet. We could have been rolling all along for all it matters in the bigger scheme of things.
Yeah. And
But,
the record button is smashed.
Okay.
Welcome to Podcast Titles Are Spook. I'm your host, James Weeks. Today I am joined by the one and the only Vermin Supreme. Thank you for coming on the show here today. What's a lot of people know about you already. I usually have people, introduce, but what's something that people don't know about Vermin Supreme?
Well, it all depends on how they know me or what they know of me. I mean, of course, many people know me only from the memes and only from the more outrageous interactions that I've had on the internet, on the YouTube with the other candidates and stuff. And I guess a lot of people don't realize that I'm an actual person, that I exist, that I'm not just a meme, that I'm a highly respected political satirist, that beloved by millions, which is only amusing because it seems to be true. And the fact, I guess, a lot of people don't know that the boot is not completely attached to my head at all times. That I'm not always in character, that I'm not always on, that I'm not always disruptive, and that I'm a pretty reasonable person with a pretty reasonable communication strategy that I've developed over the years that has allowed me to do this thing, to become well known and get my message out there for such as it is, I guess.
And, most people, they know about, the free ponies and the, zombie power, build the dome, all the good stuff. What is the message that you're, because obviously, it's a satirical campaign, but there's, the real message behind it. What is it that you're trying to get out to the people there?
I mean, satire and humor is the communication strategy that I have utilized and developed. And I've been running these, satirical campaigns for close to 30 years. The last one being an exception because it's considerably more actual and real. It definitely, the beautiful thing of it is for me is that it operates on a number of different levels. Different people ascribe different levels of import to what I do. It's like, oh, Vermin, you're so critical to democracy. We love what you're doing, or Jesus Christ, get that fucking guy with the boot on his head out of our party. And so there's a real span of opinions. And the thing about my platforms, the ponies and the zombies and the time travels and all those things, that also, and it's appreciated by different people and certainly different age demographics. I mean, the kids just love it because it's crazy and absurd. But once you start looking at it, and in fact, I've been putting it out there, and I believe that it's so straightforward that even politicians like Chris Christie or Ted Cruz are totally get it. I mean, up in New Hampshire, there's that footage of me asking Ted Cruz about mandatory toothbrushing laws, and he immediately gets it. He understands that I'm talking about the nanny state, and like that. So yes, I generally present the ideas, such as the mandatory toothbrushing law, which really came to me back in the '80s when the state of Massachusetts put in a mandatory seatbelt law. And I thought to myself, well, that's a good idea. Yes, you should buckle up for safety. And, I could see that the state had perhaps a vested interest in not having to pay for people who go through windshields and scraping them off the street and all. But, ultimately it occurred to me, I mean, does it need to be legislated? Is it something that needs to be made into a law? And at the point it was just, oh yeah, it was a law, but there was no penalties. And then, then along came some penalties. And at first it's like, well, it's okay, we can't pull you over because of it. But then it sort of eventually became just that. And I came up with the idea of, the stickers that they put out said, buckle up, it's the law. And so I just translated that into brush your teeth, it's the law. And that over time that developed into more of the dystopian enforcement mechanisms that might be employed, such as the dental re-education centers, or the preventative dental maintenance detention facilities, or the secret dental police kicking down your door at 3 a.m. to make sure that you've brushed your teeth for you and your children's safety. Government issued toothpaste containing an addictive yet harmless substance, and the DNA gene splice integrated race of winged monkeys to act as tooth fairy enforcers. And so, it comes out a critique of, these laws that are trying to regulate behavior. And, they give you that carrot and stick approach, but the carrot is that they're not going to hit you with a stick. And things like the zombie power. It's just sort of another. Well, it's actually harnessing the awesome power of zombies in their place in our culture. I mean, there's totally that. I've been very lucky in finding, very resonant items. I mean, the toothbrush, indeed, also because everyone is familiar with it. Everybody has it in their hand once or twice a day, and everybody brushes their teeth. So it becomes this thing where it becomes very, very relatable instantaneously. And of course, the toothbrush itself has, deeper meaning and a darker history and use, such as, if many people in the military find themselves being ordered to, scrub toilets out with a toothbrush, or cleaning the floor with a toothbrush. And indeed, back in Nazi Germany, there was incidences where Jews were forced to, clean the streets with freaking toothbrushes and terrible things like that. But I digress. Mm-hmm. And of course, the time travel, going back in time to kill baby Hitler. Naturally, obviously, that's just something that I cribbed off of an ethics thought question. But I decided that it would be a good platform plank. And of course, I've sort of expanded that when I explain that one a little bit. I do say, well, I'm only the candidate who promises to fully fund time travel research. And then I liken it to a Department of Defense program or a drone program where it is split up and parts of it are manufactured in every congressional district in the nation, so that canceling such a project becomes practically impossible. So essentially, it's a massive boondoggle and pork project, ultimately, as I turn it inside out to explain what it really is. The free pony for all Americans, of course. Once again, who doesn't want a free pony? It's a jobs creation program. We're going to re-up the soil. We're going to make America independent from fossil fuels and all these wonderful promises that I promised that come along with it. Full employment in the pony poop conservation corps of America. But then it turns and becomes a federal national pony identification system where you must have your pony with you at all times. And so it's this sort of nice thing that the government is going to do for you, but then it turns into this slightly more sinister and Orwellian device where you and your pony have matching lip tattoos. They have to show the secret dental police and all of these things. And I believe that once again, I've come a lot further, and the message has gone a lot wider than if I had have been just a normal looking dude with a normal suit, no boot, and just ranting and railing on the street or writing letters to the editor about the issues. And I never, ever would have had anywhere near the same impact. Satire is a very powerful tool that I have found to once again, I guess we can go back to The Empire Has No Clothes, which is a beautiful little satirical story in of itself. And it goes back to Jonathan Swift suggesting people, that the Irish eat their babies in order to get relief from the famine, which was purely a satirical, modest proposal, but taken seriously by a lot of the public who just weren't, who just took it at face value. unfortunately, satire and its messaging oftentimes to be lost on people who are very literal. I mean, literalists seem to have a difficult time grokking the satire itself and the reason for using satire, perhaps. And of course, I've run into a fair amount of that during my run for the nomination in the Libertarian Party here. And I just seems like, and once again, I fully appreciate that those who do get it, who do understand it, who like it, and still and yet just disagree with the premise that I am the best standard bearer for the party. I mean, that's an honest opinion, but at least they understand and get what I'm offering and the gist of what I'm doing. It's sort of funnier when people really seize on the literal aspects, like, that's not libertarian, he wants to give everybody a pony, that's socialism, and he wants to force you to have a lot of brush your teeth, that's not libertarian, that's and that always just sort of confounds me a little bit.
Yeah, there are people that actually take it very literal. They don't understand that it's satire at all. The funny thing about the seatbelt law is it was actually a seatbelt ticket that I got in my youth that probably got me the most angry at the government that I've been. And it's odd that it would be the thing that would make me the most angry, but I got a seatbelt ticket while I was wearing my seatbelt, and then fought it in court because I'm like, well, I thought the cop may have made an honest mistake. Where I'm like, all right, I get it. Because it was driving a car that had the seat, the seat belt. It was one that hangs down, and then there was a little, a piece of plastic on the seat itself that would loop through and then go, over.
Yeah.
And so I figured, well, he may not have, realized I was wearing it when he was pulling up behind me because, the seat belt was hanging, down. It would appear driving from the back that it's hanging down. I brought in pictures it was like, I can honest mistake, whatever, this is what it looked like. It's possible that he could have thought he saw something he didn't. And, I fought it in court, lost in court. In the court case, the cop lied about everything about where it was. He lied about him pulling up along my driver's side. He did not. He lied about what direction I was going on the road. He lied about where he even pulled me over. And the judge just looked at me and was like, well, I believe the cop over you. And, so I ended up having to pay $65, and that $65 hurt more than like anything I actually did wrong, cause when you, cause
I think in those situations, it's just a very valuable lesson, that gives you a full understanding of testifying officers happily lying, and that's lying over something very minor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that okay, a $65 ticket, and he had to lie to make that happen. And you just have to imagine and extrapolate, how much serious lying goes to convict people of crimes that they may not have committed, serious crimes, and that's certainly been borne out time and time again, sadly.
Yeah, if a cop will lie over a $65 ticket, what do they lie about to get that big case that all the media is looking at them over? What do they lie about to get? The cops will just always lie.
Yeah, I mean that's a pathological line, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean such a minor infraction. I mean, okay, a warning might suffice. Hello,
right. And it was like it wasn't even like I got pulled over for speeding or anything like that either. It wasn't an add-on ticket. I got pulled over for not wearing my seatbelt while I was wearing my seatbelt. Well, that was the only reason for being pulled over.
That was an encroachment. That law became, initially it wasn't that. It was just like, well, if we pull you over for something else and we notice you don't have your seatbelt clicked, we'll ticket you. And then it became, a reason to pull you over. And as we know, police encounters can go bad relatively quickly under a lot of circumstances, and a lot of people have been killed as a result.
Yeah.
So it's just another bullshit excuse for the popo to intervene with your going about your daily life.
Now, what about the promises to make sure that we always have good weather?
Oh yes, well the weather dome, and that's one of my older. I think that one was came out in my first mayoral campaign. It was like Vermin Supreme, the only candidate who promises to do something about the weather. Possibilities under study include a weather dome over the entire city, the actual physical relocation of the city, or simply throwing out anybody who complains. And so that was an early platform plank, and years and years. I mean, back in '92 and '96, before climate change was even a blip, I was actually asking the duopoly candidates what they were going to do about the weather,
mm-hmm.
and demanded to know what they were going to do about the weather. Bob Dole told me he was going to pray for good weather on election day. So I thought that was a very good answer.
That is a pretty solid answer.
Oh yes, and when and to check this out, when I asked him if he supported mandatory toothbrushing laws, he answered as long as it was locally controlled.
Local mandatory toothbrushing.
That was pretty right on. When I asked Ron Paul in 2008, I had the opportunity to ask him if he supported mandatory toothbrushing laws, and he said yes, which was surprising. And then I asked him how we would pay for them, and he responded that we would print up lots of money, which I thought was just great. And then when I asked him if he was going to go back in time and kill baby Hitler with me, he responded that it sounded a little risky as his driver drove away.
Well, it was in the 2016 election. Jeb Bush had promised to go back in time and kill baby Hitler.
Oh yes, once again, I mean that's part of the success of the campaign. I think is I've been putting those ideas out there for a while, and they keep occasionally get picked up and repurposed or used for what they were intended. Yes, it was very good. Jeb Bush was asked if he would go back in time and kill baby Hitler. And then somebody riffed on that one and asked Ben Carson if he would go back in time and abort baby Hitler.
Ooh.
I don't know if you'd heard that one. And he said no. And case in point on the communication angle, free ponies. That is a phrase that I popularized, through the appearance in the debate up in New Hampshire when I went viral back in December 2011. But then, between that time, between the campaign of 2012, where I was actively promoting free ponies, it was just in 4 short years that the news media had adopted the phrase free ponies to describe free government giveaways. Free healthcare, free. You want a free pony? We want a free pony with that. And so I think that just goes to how effective and how resonant some of the topics and phrases that I'm able to pick up on. And I think a lot has to do with that by choosing phrases that have that resonance to begin with. In politics prior to that, the closest thing to sort of ponynomics or pony awareness was when Ronald Reagan used to like to tell that story about the kid shoveling out shit in the stable. The stable is like full of manure, and this kid is digging, and he's super excited and super happy, and he's digging the horse poop and the horse shit, and somebody asks him, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the kid goes, "With all this manure, there has to be a pony here somewhere." And I can't remember what exactly Ronald Reagan's point was. I think he was trying to make a point about something.
Well, I mean, it is Ronald Reagan. It was probably something terrible.
Yeah, I know.
But getting past, the satirical aspects of the campaign, what would be, let's say hypothetically, let's get into an even more crazy hypothetical here. Hypothetically, Vermin Supreme wins.
The presidency.
Your president.
I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point that I'll be taking the nomination of the Libertarian Party.
It's that's already that's in the bag. So you're president now. We'll fast forward past the Libertarian Party nomination. When there's obviously going to be a fight. They're going to attempt to hijack the nomination because they have to stop Vermin Supreme from getting into power. But now we're fast forward past that. Vermin Supreme's in power.
Yeah. It's going to be bruising. It's only in a few weeks. It's going to be bruising.
What does that? What would actually happen? Let's say hypothetically, fast forward, Vermin Supreme gets elected.
Well, last night on the Mises debate, they asked a similar question: what would be the first thing you would do? And my answer was I was going to call up all the world leaders and say hi to them alphabetically. And I thought that was a fair thing to do. But of course, if it made it past that, because there's certainly a lot of countries that would probably take a while, I would take a day off because I'd probably be really hungover and blown out from the inauguration festivities for sure. And then I would work on my agenda of putting a pony into space in my first 100 days.
Perfect.
That would go in conjunction, of course, with ending all the wars and bringing home the troops and all those libertarian style things that we want to do, pardon all the political prisoners and the convicted of crimes that had no victims, and just empty out the jails and attempt to end the mass incarceration and start reapportionating the money until we can bring that baby down to the point where we can, once again, another Ronald Reagan phrase, I guess, small enough that you can drown it in the bathtub. Because that's what I like about the Libertarian Party, because it is a party of anarchists and minarchists, and that gives me a candidate, a little bit of cover, because we are obviously a political party, obviously running political candidates. So, there is some implicit affirmation of the state as, at least we're acknowledging its existence. We might not approve of it, but we acknowledge it exists, and we are utilizing it as a tool to further our agenda of dismantling it. So that's, there is that, and I do like that it does give us this opportunity to even consider a post-state society. I've been an anarchist for many years, and it took a long time to get to the Libertarian Party portion of that spectrum, if you will. But I like the platform, but I also understand that the long range utopian vision is life without a state. And of course, I spent a lot of my life trying to live my life and figure out how to live, without the state and beyond the state and under the state, and just sort of ignoring the state whenever is feasible. I think that most people are able to do that, and but then of course then they're reminded, oh geez, the taxes are due, and then they look at the prices of things and see how much tax is included, and so it's a little hard to to disengage from that process, because they tend to jack you up every chance they get to pay for themselves, pay for it to exist. Bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy in a lot of instances. The bureaucratic industrial complex. It's just another one of those jumbo things that I've been railing against for a while now.
Well, I think with the Libertarian Party is a rather unique party in that it does have a rather sizable presence of anarchists in the party. A lot of people get kind of are surprised by that. A lot of anarchists outside the party looking at the party, I don't know if they realize that or.
I did not. I did not. Nope, I was not hep to that, for sure.
So what would you say to all the anarchists that are listening out there that are like, what the hell are, what's Vermin Supreme doing in the Libertarian Party? What would you say to those people? Try and get them to come on in.
I would say that, first of all, I would recommend that, checking out the Libertarian Party platform, lp.org/platform, and read it just to, get a feeling of what the party actually represents or what its ideals aspire to. And there it is indeed the only political party that welcomes and consists of anarchists and minarchists, but anarchists, and that's really about the only reason that I am affiliated with this party, because it welcomes us. It welcomes anarchists. I mean, okay. And ultimately, when I looked at the Libertarian Party platform, and I was able to dovetail my beliefs as a left-based anarchist with a good chunk of it, with most of it. Certainly there's differences. At one point I was, I would profess to be an anti-capitalist, and I think a lot of anti-capitalists do consider themselves anti-capitalists. But once again, I believe these terms are being thrown around by the left and the right without really understanding, without sharing the same definitions for the same words. And I did believe that, when I would say I was against capitalism, I was more against the exploitive nature of it and the current corporate government fusion and the that forces it to be something other and more so non coercive than it needs to be, perhaps. When the righties talk about socialism, or the government giving away anything is socialism, and it's like, well, it's not. No, it's not really socialism. And so I think it's the various sides having a misunderstanding. A thing that my journey to becoming a libertarian ultimately involved sort of dismantling one stereotype that I possessed at a time, and seeing that the libertarian community, the people that I have come to know and love and respect, no, they're not selfish bastards. They're lovely people. They don't think along the lines of "I got mine, fuck you." No, they do not. It's the libertarians want to have opportunities for everybody, for all citizens, for all people, and in believing that the free market will ultimately create these opportunities, and opportunities are what our people seize in order to better themselves. And okay, so that was I came to understand that. Libertarians, I discovered that they were compassionate. In 2012, in 2008, Ron Paul, and started playing around with the Ron Paul Tea Party in New Hampshire primary, and I was getting to know the Free State Project and the Free Staters up there. So I was, just starting to get to know them as people, as opposed to having these prejudices in my mind against them and stereotyping them all as one thing. I mean, even when I simply point out that the Libertarian Party is not a right-leaning monolith, that is a spectrum of political thought. That there are different strands of libertarianism that have different interpretations on the subject. When I'm talking to hard, lefties or older lefties who just have had knee-jerk reaction, and I just wait, did you know that there's a libertarian socialist caucus? And it's like, you see it in their face that they really have to reassess what it is that they think the Libertarian Party is, and it's not what you think it is necessarily. In 2012, when I was up at in New Hampshire. And New Hampshire is great because it's a small state, and of course, every duopoly candidate is up there after the Iowa caucuses, and they all have their campaign headquarters and campaign buses and staffs and events, and they're bouncing all around. And I've been utilizing that as a canvas, if you will. I mean, any activist who has anything to say should go up here during that time and seize the media. But because it's such a small state, a lot of the activists know each other. And in 2012, we had an Occupy the primary. And so it was like one of the last Occupy actions. And the Free State Project was out in force. And so there was all these duopoly candidates. And so we would find ourselves at the same events, like Rick Santorum or Newt Gingrich, and we would, there would be the occupiers, and there would be the Free State Libertarians, and because it's a small state, a lot of them knew each other, and they've been working on different things. So we would be harassing the same candidate, perhaps for different reasons. But there's the occupiers, there's the Free Staters, and on a moment's notice, it could all come together and turn into a pro Vermin Supreme rally. So that was a very beautiful thing. But as we were renting a room from as a campaign headquarters for a place for our people to sleep at night, and the woman that we rented it for, Chris, was a member of the Free State Project, and she had been in an accident and had been in a wheelchair and not confined to, because she can get out of it. She's not glued to it or whatever, but she uses a wheelchair for mobility. And I found out and heard the story about how the libertarian community came together when she had her accident and put her, helped her get back up on her feet, so to speak, and came together and, not only saw her through that particular moment and that crisis, but they were also came together and helped her create her own position and get the grants and make things happen. And they helped her, come back. And when when I understood that the libertarian community was a compassionate one, and that they did exercise charity. And I will tell you, here is something for, and as an anarchist before I came to libertarianism, but because I'm I cut my teeth on Kropotkin, in mutual aid when I was a young man, and things, they make that impression, and it definitely I believe so hard in mutual aid, and I was starting to get a feel for these libertarians, and I sort of liked what they were doing, and I was concerned. I was concerned. I did not want to tell them about the phrase mutual aid. I was scared that if I did so, it would be co-opted and they would use it for in a way that I didn't want it, used. It was so precious to me. But then, years later, not that long later, I am actively and doing my best to present the ideas of mutual aid to the Libertarian Party and emphasize, the compassion and the power of love and caring for people. And, I think that's been a main part of my campaign and what I'm trying to bring to the Libertarian Party itself, because I think there's a lot of, candidates or people in the party that are, happy to present, they'll just, present we gotta do this, do that, day one, end Medicare, day one, end Social Security, and it's like, yeah, okay, but if you're not going to present some sort of transitional, ideas or some notions or a plan that is going to avoid wholesale massive suffering, I think that's going to be a hard sell. Um, so yeah, I would say to anarchists that and another, once again, the Libertarian Party. There are anarchists from the left. There are anarchists from the right. There are anti-authoritarians on the left and anti-authoritarians on the right, and we have been actively working together. We refer to it as bottom unity, and it refers to that Nolan political chart where you decide, you answer some questions and you plot yourself on the chart, and the authoritarian half is the upper half, and the lower half is the anti-authoritarian half, and that's what libertarians are. Libertarians are anti-authoritarians, absolutely, 100%. That we, if you join the Libertarian Party, there's about one thing that is asked of you: that you agree with the non-aggression principle, the belief that violence is an illegitimate thing. And it can only be legitimately used for self-defense of yourself or your property. So there is that. There's that whole nonviolent. Like I say, I would read the platform. There's a lot of overlap. When I was up in New Hampshire and asked Tulsi Gabbard if she had read the Libertarian Party platform, she said no, but she came back with this impassioned anti-war and pro civil liberties rant. And so, she instinctively, she might not have totally known what we were about, but she did know at least that much.
Right.
And so if you put the Venn diagram, I ask people to, look at our platform and, see where that overlap is, see what and then if, you have questions, and of course, I did, because a lot of, libertarian notions and ideas, quite frankly, to normal people or the uninitiative, they seem quite contrary. They seem, they create a cognitive dissonance. I mean, we need to abolish the FDA. We need to abolish the CDC. And boom, it's like, people immediately look at you like you're a crackpot. Without some sort of explanation or exposition about what the thinking is behind such a statement. And I believe that there's certainly ways to get these messages across without the immediate, perhaps non-productive, bold declarative statements that just leave people cold and scratching their head. I think there's I think the Libertarian Party, libertarians do have a little bit of a PR problem to people who, face it. I mean, most people don't know, haven't heard of, and aren't familiar with. Even though they may exhibit or express very libertarian ideas themselves. I mean, back when I would be doing May Day parades, and I still support workers. I believe workers are an incredibly important part of the equation in the market. You can't run a factory without it. But I also say, hey, if you don't own the means of productions, don't criticize those who do. Which is, of course, a joke, because anybody's open for criticisms over how they do things. And I think there's there's certainly so many different ideas and ways of looking at things, even within the Libertarian Party, that I think when these counterintuitive things are brought up, I recommend people ask me about, or ask somebody who has a real good grasp on things. It's one of the things I've enjoyed about libertarian events and conventions, and I'll hear things. It's like, really, I did not know that. I mean, simple things like up until 1964, all medical services were cash. Okay, interesting. I mean, didn't know that, but things that perhaps have real applications in the present world, and in trying to change things.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, one thing about the Libertarian Party is, like, for example, the very first chair of the Libertarian Party of Indiana was an anarcho-communist. People don't know things like that about the Libertarian Party. There's always been, left anarchists involved in the party. Going all the way back. And, this is something that, now, admittedly, over the years, most of the left anarchists have since left the party and not had much to do with it. But I think it's a good thing to have, that presence in the party, and we can make changes to it. For example, I'm gonna give an example. In, I think it was 2015, I chaired the platform committee of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. I've chaired it twice now. Once in 2019 and then once in 2015. I think were the 2 years I did that. In 2015, I was able to get into the platform actual by name support for mutual aid right in the platform, as well as a plank calling for the ending of criminalization of homeless, pretty good stuff. And then in this past time that I was able to chair it, I was able to get, that's something that we're able to do. The party platform isn't exactly set in stone. It gets changed. The national platform gets changed every couple of years. Your various state platforms get changed every year, maybe 2 years. And
all the various caucuses have their own.
Mm-hmm. And all the various caucuses have their own platforms, and all the various caucuses are trying to get as much as their platform put into the various national, state, and national platforms. Libertarians don't all agree on everything. What we do agree upon is probably the most important thing, and that's that we want a world set free in our lifetime. We want to challenge the cult of the omnipotent state. We want to defend the rights of the individual. We want everybody to be able to live according to, their own wants and desires, of course, under the condition that, that isn't imposing their will on others to do so. We want a world without coercion. Now, of course, there's different disagreements between what all qualifies as coercion, and you're going to have that everywhere. It's no different in any left anarchist only space where you'll have disagreements between syndicalists, communists, socialists, mutualists, of all the different aspects of everything. You'll always have some disagreements, but it's fine to work together.
More and more, I have found that it seems that because a lot of the vision that we're presenting as libertarians, or at least a good chunk of the people I talk to, fully see that things need to be decentralized. The government shouldn't control so much stuff, and that that they don't really, most of the people I talk to, it's like they're fine. If the socialists want to have a little worker-owned factory over there in their own community and micro society, they're pretty cool about that.
Exactly.
They're about this coexistence. They don't have a real problem. I mean, some are hardline and hardcore and raging anti communist maniacs, but most of the reasonable people, when we're discussing what a post-state society might look like, because ultimately that's the the vision, the utopia that we'd like to achieve. Most of the people they don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
That
I
is
draw the
something.
line at fucking those ethno-natives down the street. I mean, fuck them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those people have no place. Those ethno-nationalists those guys need to just go away. I think that's actually probably a big part of the image problem of the Libertarian Party is so many people, because they're so damn loud. And the funny thing is that they're not even like part of the Libertarian Party. Like
they're like small L, call themselves motherfucking libertarians.
Right. It's it's what Liberty Hangout and group like that are in no way affiliated with the Libertarian Party, that openly admit that they're just trying to co-opt the term libertarian.
They're those people. Oh, gee. Yeah. And once again, because anybody can say they're anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even think they are, but that does not mean they are exhibiting or modeling or living the ideals of what is the Libertarian Party. And once again, of course, that's the platform, I guess, which is the soul of the party, or the something of the party. At least it's something we can all agree on. Whereas all the different caucuses or economic factions rely on different economists' books or whatever, and as a concrete plan for whatever they're trying to achieve. But the Libertarian Party, obviously, we're all members, and we all have to forge some sort of common ground, and that's the platform for you. So yeah, I would, any anarchists, and I think people are open to our arguments. I find, and in a lot of the debates where I've had to tack right a little bit, if tacking right means affirming property rights, because it's in the platform, and that's what I'm running on, and so I believe that's only fair. But also, during in the same breath, I would say, well, but don't get me started on illegitimate property.
Mm-hmm.
And because there are arguments to be made, and I've brought up illegitimate debt, and student loan. The government has no business lending money, so maybe they should just give that debt up and shit.
Right.
And even Judge Gray, who's in the race right now. He's been presenting the idea of negative income tax. Which has been an idea in U.S. politics since Nixon and all. They're just and essentially it's a revenue for people who have no income, and strikes some people. It sounded a little bit like a UBI, and people are he's being attacked for it. Because people don't see that being covered in the platform, and they think it's just another redistribution of theft tax money. And he's presenting a more, I don't know, a government interfaced, realistic oriented version of what he's putting out there as a candidate, and how we think he might function as a functionary, perhaps. But nonetheless, it's out there, and when I asked, I asked my friend Boomer about it. Well, how does that? And because as a candidate, I'm always interested in, if somebody has something that thinks might fit in, or something that people were coming at me. A lot of the Yang kids want to promote the UBI, and I was just, I went on a podcast, Yang podcast the other night, and just had to say, well, I'm sorry, just not going to fly under the Libertarian Party platform as it exists.
And then
but under the Georgist, under the Georgist, model, under the Georgism, and I'm still just starting to read up on it a little bit. That is a strand of libertarian that very well, where you could sort of start to make those arguments that, it's sort of like if you can, own what you. I don't know. There's just some very different things, and like I say, there's these ideas are malleable to a point, as long as they're defendable, and if they're and ideally if they work within the context of the platform. So that part is very cool, and that really caught me by surprise when the negative income tax was even brought into the discussion. It's like, really, wow, that's something.
Right. Well, that's the kind of the beautiful thing about the LP is there is a huge range of ideas in it, and people get to talk about them. And
Truly.
And the one thing that is way different for people that, like, for the DSA type people that are used to working within the Democratic Party for whatever, you know, the centrists here in the Libertarian Party, they don't really work against us. You know, that's something is you don't really see as many people working against the more radical side of the party.
True.
You see more working together than you do in other political parties.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been like floored. I've just been amazed. I mean, think about it. Vermin freaking Supreme. I mean, in such a short period of time, being welcomed and supported by so many members of the Libertarian Party that it became a feasible campaign. It became an actual thing where, I'm that close. I mean, that is amazing. And,
Right.
I mean, what I've been advocating for my whole career is it's out there. It's pretty out there. I mean, you can see it. You can read it. It's for all to see. I come from a left mutual aid, Kropotkin based, that and the Rainbow Gatherings, where I learned about, anarchy and practice and all that good stuff. But, it's for that reason alone. For that reason alone, anarchists, you should check it out, right?
Yeah, that's for the people there's a really good argument to put you up, especially this year, as far as strategy goes for the Libertarian Party. For one, the change in PR that the Libertarian Party has from going from, because the last few cycles, I think there was some really poor decisions there in nominating, so many just washed up Republicans, and that it really did put a bad image on the party, and I think that having, a Vermin Supreme candidacy would undo a lot of that negative image that people see. A lot of the people that go, ooh, the Libertarian Party, they're a bunch of, Republicans, that would undo all of that. For
now they'll just say, I didn't know Vermin Supreme was a Republican.
I mean, it might go that way. But, one big thing that I think it would do, though, is, especially with this cycle, with this cycle being that, you had the Democrats clearly rigged their primary yet again against Bernie Sanders. You have a lot of the Bernie Sanders supporters who don't really. They're looking for a new home. They don't really have a place.
Oh, yeah. And once again, the libertarians aren't against everybody having access to health care. That's a misnomer. Just don't believe the government should be running that shit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never had any traction when I've called for, switching over to a mutual aid healthcare system, or I've never had any pushback from libertarians in suggesting a mutual aid healthcare system.
Sure. Yeah, fuck yeah.
And that's something that, if Bernie Sanders would have supported that, they would have kicked him out a long time ago. The only reason they let him say, universal health care was because the corporations that run everything would still be able to profit off of that.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. So yeah, and so yeah, I think the resistance that I've gotten seems to be mainly people who are fearful of the image of the party, and what people think, and like that. But I totally believe that if the party wholeheartedly owns the joke, I'm not trolling the party. I want to troll America with the party, for the party. Have as much fun as we possibly can, and yet doing some serious educating and outreach, and bringing people in to our little tent. And to hashtag in on the joke. Yes, we are the Libertarian Party. We're a very serious party. We've got some serious ideas. We got a platform that will better America. However, as we pivot, the duopoly electoral system and process has risen to the level of a joke. And with love and with spite, here is Vermin Supreme, and let Vermin Supreme be Vermin Supreme, and and the press cannot stay away. The sizzle would be amazing. Once again, they asked me the other night at the debate, how would you try and get to the poll at 15% to qualify for the debates with Trump and Biden? And I was like, I don't see how I could not poll at 15%. That's, oh no. D's nuts polled at what, 9%, just for no good reason. So I think there's just so many good reasons, and I think it would be a palate cleanser. It would definitely be a change up, and I think the party could get past it. And I think most people, I've spent 30 years, treating the media and the media workers, which is what the media is essentially. They're the people who work for and with the media, as a very important audience. And they've always gotten it. They understand it. And if you read any articles, I mean, there's very, very few articles that just don't plain get it. And, he's a maniac. Most get that. They use the words activist and performance and satire, and then talk about what I'm talking about and the issues that I'm trying to get across. And I think that just this run itself has brought been forcing people to look at the Libertarian Party and say, what is it? What we think it is? Why is Vermin even involved in that shit? Like you mentioned earlier. So it's definitely been a pleasure. It's been wonderful. I mean, I was recruited. I have my campaign manager, Desiree. She over a year ago reached out. Vermin, do you want to run a serious campaign? It would have been so much easier for me to just say, nah, I'll just keep running the silly ones that are imaginary. But I said yes, and I've attended, plenty of state conventions over the last couple of years until we stopped having them because of the coronavirus, and debated and debated. I'm still debating. I mean, I had back-to-back debates this weekend, had a couple last week, have a couple coming up. It's like, so, and I never would have done that if I was not asked to represent these people. We have people in our campaign staff, principled libertarians representing the left and the right strands of the party, and they're anti-authoritarians, and they sincerely believe, and my supporters believe, that it is a viable and reasonable and sensible way forward, a way that makes sense, and a way that will do the party be a net positive for the party. And that's the only way I can really gauge it, because if I was not me, I would really wonder myself. I would say, I don't know, is that a good idea? But because I am me, I have no choice. Number one, to present it in the most favorable and possible light. And the past year of going to conventions, and I've just been putting out this. These few statements, and I'm just people. I ask them to say, to admit that it's not inconceivable, and it's like we make the claim that out of the current crop that was, I was the only one, or likely the only one to likely get to 5%. Inconceivable. No. That we can grow the party in a big way. Inconceivable? Not at all.
You've
We
proven
won
that.
that contest. We've been doing that. Is it inconceivable that we can use this humor and satire as a tool to defy the stereotypes and promote liberty and freedom and have people question the government and the need for the excessiveness of it and the need for the wars and the need for the uh, mass incarceration and just pushing these issues out to the forefront using wacky Vermin Supreme with the boot on his head. Whoa, hey kids, smash the state! Because of course, this whole campaign, I've had to be so freaking serious, and I think I've reached a pretty good mix of the debates. Tell a little, answer with a little joke, and then pivot it back to the platform and give a libertarian, statement on it. But it works for me, and I think if people agree, if the delegates agree, in 2 weeks we're going to know. I mean, that's an incredible relief. In 2 weeks, I will know whether I'm going to be the nominee of a national party, of the Libertarian Party. Will I be the presidential candidate, or on the off chance that I'm not? Something different. Will it be one of the other candidates? And I'm cool with it. Either way, I've been having this type of doing this thing so long that I have a real a good perspective on what it all means, and I am happy to offer my services as a candidate because 30 years of doing my thing, I've reached a level of notoriety and a reach and political capital and political goodwill that seems to be ever replenishing. And I just, I'm happy to share what I've developed in the blessing and the audience and all these, millions of people who know me and boom. And so I don't know. It's just something that seems it's not inconceivable. That it could be a very great thing. Life's a gamble. Who knows? Could be a tremendous failure. But I don't think so. And I think it's worth a shot. And once again, all I can say is that the people who support me, they do believe it, and they do care for the party, and they care what's best for the party, and they want to see what is best for the party, and they believe that a Vermin Supreme candidacy is a way to achieve many laudable goals for the party. So there it is. There it is in a nutshell, I guess. And I'm ready to do it. 2 weeks, hit the ground running.
2 weeks
Got
to
the
go.
nominee. Boom. There's going to be a tidal wave of media coming our way, trying to see what happened, and boom. And we will stir that up, and we will turn it into a viral moment, and it will spread like wildfire, and the kids will just be so on board, and the unrepresented will perhaps feel represented, and we will bring in the disillusioned and the disgusted and the disaffected and all the nerds and geeks and every subculture in America that represents them. And it's going to be a movement, friends. It's going to be a movement.
It will be beautiful. And Vermin, where can people find out more about your campaign and follow what you've got going on?
Okay. VerminSupreme2020.com is the official campaign website. It's got the merch that you can purchase that actually goes straight to the campaign. It's a pretty fun thing having this 527 political organization. The more people give me, the more I can spend. I've raised more this year than I have spent on all 30 years of campaigning combined previously. And now, I mean, that once again, it's a serious campaign. It's a campaign. I have bills, the campaigns of my bills just for platforms and things like that. Sheesh, it's more than my own monthly living expenses. So that's crazy. On Facebook, you can go to the Vermin Supreme for President, which is the blue checkmark official page. There is also Vermin Supreme's Dank Meme Stash, which has all sorts of vermin dank memes coming in all the time. on Facebook, my own personal page is Vermin Supreme. Just that, and there's a whole bunch of other various ones. Pony Liberty Caucus, check it out, people. On Twitter at Vermin Supreme. I got my own name in that one early, so I was lucky there, huh? And then on Twitter, goodness gracious, on Twitter, I've got 11 million hits on the hashtag, a million likes, 130,000 followers. I haven't checked it in a while. I do owe those people some content. Thanks for reminding me. Is at the real Vermin Supreme on TikTok. And I know we have a Reddit. I don't know how active that is. I know there's a Discord or two. And I don't know. I'm just all over the place, I guess, and always looking for volunteers who might want to open up virtual digital campaign presences in Second Life and Sims and Minecraft and every other possible place that we could push this imaginary part of it forward. And yeah,
we do need that. We need a Vermin Supreme Minecraft server. Someone needs to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody made me a Minecraft suit once. I saw that. And yeah, the weird meme fan art, it's reached out into some very, very strange places. And it's a blessing. It's pretty amazing that I've been fortunate enough to create something that resonates with so many people and speaks to so many people and means so much to so many people. And seemingly has, my campaign has always been one of infinite potential. I brought it as far as I could just by doing my part of it. But now we have a bunch of people on board and more people all the time wanting to help promote it, using absurdism and nonlinear messaging to catch the attention and then have some fun with the people. People like to pretend, and they like a little relief from the harsh realities. It is reality these days, especially. So I'd like to thank you, sir, for having me here this evening.
Thank you for coming on the show.
And shout out to all your beautiful viewers. And thank you for your consideration to all the delegates.
Yep.
Together, we will ride our ponies into a zombie-powered future.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'm Vermin Supreme. Good night. Wash your hands, brush your teeth, maintain all reasonable social distances, masks if you got them, and keep safe and study up on virology.
And all the stuff I'm supposed to say at the end of these episodes, hashtag please donate to the Patreon. And make sure you go, if you're going to join the party, you listen to the show, you liked what Vermin had to say, you want to join the party, you want to help out, go to lp.org/podcast titles are a spook. Join the party using that link, and a portion of the dues comes back to the show. And unlike all those big-name libertarian podcasters that, pocket that money and try and make a living off of it, I donate it to libertarian candidates like Vermin Supreme here. So make sure that if you're joining the party, join using that link so you're not just, making Tom Woods rich. I'm going to call you out by name, Tom Woods. Calling you out by name.
Uh-oh, look out. It's on, people. It's on.
And nice spooks, nerd.